Presidency, and I am joined today by our sign language interpreters. It will be Sarah Klaas, the one who's interpreting now, and later on she'll be joined by Nthabiseng Ndlovu. So I hope that they will also capture them. Today, colleagues, is the 22nd of August, which is still our Women's Month. Let me, on that note then, invite the Minister in the Presidency to take us through the Cabinet deliberations and decisions. Minister, thank you.
We need to get a bigger podium so that it can accommodate all our things.
Mics.
The mics and everything else. Good morning, colleagues. Good morning, South Africans. This is the statement of the Cabinet meeting that was held on Wednesday, 21st August 2024, on the issues from the environment, on building a safer South Africa, and fight against crime. Cabinet welcomed the arrest of a 40-year-old suspect, believed to be one of the ringleaders behind a kidnapping foreign syndicate that is targeting business people in South Africa. He is also suspected to be a key figure in the 300 million rands crystal meth drug seized recently at the Johannesburg suburbs of Fourways and Bruma. The arrest underscores government's commitment to decisively deal with organized crime. Cabinet supports the deployment of the multidisciplinary law enforcement teams to deal with the high crime rate situation that is prevailing in the Eastern Cape. The multidisciplinary teams include anti-organized crime, specialized operations, and intelligence operatives. Cabinet reiterated to law enforcement that communities cannot be held ransom by criminals. Cabinet also welcomed the arrest of the suspect found in possession of 34 passports by the Border Management Agency at the Libombo port of entry to Mozambique. This is part of continued efforts to stem out illegal immigration criminal syndicates that seek to undermine our border controls and immigration laws. The fight against crime remains a shared responsibility between the police, communities, and all sectors, and the Cabinet continues to urge citizens to work with law enforcement agencies to combat crime in our communities. On the fight against gender-based violence and femicide, Cabinet calls on the men of our country to join the initiative by President Cyril Ramaphosa to take a stand against GBVF by signing the virtual pledge at www.stateofthenation.gov.za/NGBVF. By signing the pledge, men commit to be part of the solution by maintaining positive behavior and attitudes and to take responsibility for their actions. It also commits the men to never raise a hand against a woman, to treat women as equals, respect their rights, and to treat them with dignity. Managing GBF as a collective will result in healthier, safer, and more peaceful communities in which women and children can thrive. Furthermore, Cabinet welcomed the opening of the 65th Thuthuzela Care Center at the Mitchells Plain Hospital in Cape Town earlier this week to support victims of the GBVF. Government's establishment of the Thuthuzela Care Centers across the country is a response to the urgent need for prevention, response, and support for victims of violence, especially women and children. Cabinet also expressed concern over the alarming state urges society and parents in particular to help solve this challenge by reporting anyone who engages in sex with a minor that is a child under the age of 16, as it is a criminal offense. Actually, it is rape. If the country does not work together to address this challenge of teenage pregnancies, women and young girls will continue to be trapped in a vicious cycle of poverty, lack of educational and economic opportunities. On the pre-release calendar for the publication of the quarterly crime statistics, Cabinet noted the pre-release calendar for the publication of the quarterly crime statistics for the 2024-2025 financial year. The crime statistics will be released in August and in November 2024, and in February and in March 2025. The frequent release of the crime statistics is important for monitoring crime trends and better decision-making in the fight against crime as we partner each other, both law enforcement, government, civil society, and communities. On disaster management, Cabinet welcomed the urgent intervention by the Department of Human Settlements to assist displaced families whose houses were flooded when the walls of a dam collapsed on 8 August 2024 in the Swartland municipality in the Western Cape. Support continues to be provided to affected families following the failure of 3 farm dams located in riverlands that caused severe damage to property and infrastructure. Water levels have now receded for residents who were earlier evacuated to return to their homes. However, the full extent of the damage is still being assessed, and the 2 available community centers remain open for residents who prefer not to return to their homes immediately. As the country's rainy season approaches in the northern part of the country, Cabinet calls on municipalities to ensure that stormwater drains are cleaned and free from blockages to ensure the smooth flow of water when it rains. On the economy, excuse me, official unemployment rate was 33.5% in the second quarter of 2024, as reported by Stats SA. It went up by 0.6% of a percentage from the first quarter, 0.9%. The number of unemployed persons increased by 158,000, to 8.4 million people during the same quarter. An analysis of the employment by industry reveals a decrease in the number of employed individuals within the 5 of the 10 industries between quarter 1 of 2024 and quarter 2. Employment decreases were mainly in the trade with 110,000 decrease, agriculture 45,000, and private households 18,000. However, the largest increases in employment were recorded in the manufacturing, 49,000, the more people employed, and community and social services, 36,000. The increase in the number of employment in the manufacturing indicates an economy that is starting to create products within the country, and we are hoping to strengthen that. Cabinet has committed to work to strengthen the creation of more jobs, and in partnership with business and labor. The annual consumer price inflation was 4.6% in July 2024, down from 5.1% in June 2024. The CPI increased by 0.4% month on month in July 20. Annual inflation rate were housing and utilities points, miscellaneous goods and services increased by 7.0% year on year and contributed to 1.8 percentage point, and transport increased by 4.2% year on year and contributed to 0.6 percentage point. And Cabinet remains committed to work to address the cost of living in the country, and the Committee of Ministers, led by the Minister of Finance, will soon submit to Cabinet measures that will intervene, in particular with the fuel prices in the country, to ensure that South Africans can afford the fuel, but also the ability to transport, to reduce the transport cost. On energy, the signing into law of the Electricity Regulation Amendment Act by the President creates a new era of a competitive and sustainable electricity sector that meets South Africa's energy needs. The amendments enhance energy security by drawing in more participants into energy production. The country's energy security has also been further strengthened with an additional 2,500 megawatts of electricity, that will be fed into the national grid at the end of September 2024. The additional capacity will come from Medupi Unit 4, Kusile Unit 6, and Quebec Unit 2. And this will place the country firmly on track to reach the milestone of 150 days without load shedding. Today we are on 148 days without load shedding. And this milestone has been achieved with a reduction in the use of OCGT, resulting in 10.21 billion rand savings in the cost of diesel compared to the same period last year. You will recall when we started to say there have not been load shedding and there's not going to be load shedding, the government, sixth administration, was accused of going on a diesel spend because we were trying to campaign for the elections. And these 148 days and on track for 150 days without load shedding demonstrate that it was never a ruse and we have not been burning diesel. The work of the National Energy Crisis Committee, NECOM, and that is working with ESCOM is bearing fruit to make sure that South Africa finally gets rid of load shedding. The work is still much ahead, but we remain resolute that we are going to have complete load shedding in this country. Cabinet has noted the withdrawal of the determination for the procurement of new nuclear energy generation capacity by the Minister of Electricity and Energy, Dr. Khumbudzo Ntshavheni, to allow for further public consultation. Cabinet affirmed that nuclear energy remains part of our country's energy mix as it offers a low-carbon, reliable source of electricity that can contribute significantly to the country's energy security and climate goals. On the ports infrastructure, Cabinet welcomed the launch of 5 out of the 7 tugboats which are part of Transnet National Ports Authority's fleet renewal program to tackle the challenges of congestion at the country's ports in line with the freight logistics roadmap to restore the efficiency and competitiveness in our ports and rail. The tugboats, which are equipped with the latest technology and improved bollard pull capacity, will help reduce vessel turnaround times by assisting in the faster movement of cargo and container ships through our major ports. The tugboats will also assist in preventing accidents by guiding ships through congested areas, thus improving port safety. On health-related matters, I'll start with the Mpox. Cabinet reassures South Africans that the outbreak of Mpox disease, which has now been declared a public health emergency of international concern, a fake by the World Health Organization, and the Public Health Emergency of Continental Security, faxed by the African Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, commonly known as Africa CDC, is under control in South Africa. To date, the total number of positive cases recorded stands at 24, and this includes 3 deaths, 19 recoveries, and 2 active cases undergoing home isolation. Of these, 12 cases were reported in Gauteng, 11 in KwaZulu-Natal, and 1 in the Western Cape. Cabinet calls on members of the public to play their part by supporting government's efforts to prevent the spread of Mpox by remaining vigilant and exercising non-pharmaceutical interventions such as heightened personal hygiene to prevent further transmission. Cabinet supports the call by President Ramaphosa in his capacity as the African Union champion on pandemic prevention, preparedness and response for all partners to collaborate closely with the African CDC to ensure that there is appropriate support from the international community, guaranteeing equitable access to medical countermeasures, including diagnostics, therapeutics, and vaccines. And on the foot and mouth disease, major progress has been made in tackling the foot and mouth disease in the Kucha and Kokama local municipalities in the Eastern Cape, with the latest clinical reported cases in mid-July. Animal movements in and out of the affected regions continue to be monitored to prevent the spread of the disease to unaffected areas in terms of the disease management area. And the transportation of livestock from one place to another requires transport permit from a local state veterinary officer to prevent the spread of the disease. The 30 cattle farms that have tested positive for the disease have been placed under quarantine, and vaccination efforts continue to control the spread of infection and reduce the severity of clinical symptoms. Additionally, Preemptive vaccination has been carried out on a further 37 farms identified as high risk due to their proximity to infected areas. In total, over 92,000 cattle and nearly 600 sheep across 67 farms have been vaccinated. On the school nutrition program, Cabinet has noted the proposed modernization strategy of the National School Nutrition Program and support the work underway to ensure proper due diligence on the proposed approach to safeguard the interests of the 9.7 million learners who are daily beneficiaries of the scheme. The Minister of Basic Education is attending to this matter. On the Women's Month commemorations, remember August is Women's Month, and we continue to commemorate the achievements that our country has made in empowering women in honor of the women of the 1956 March. On the National Aviation Gender Summit, South African Civil Aviation Authority, SACA, an entity of the Department of Transport, hosted a successful National Aviation Gender Summit in KwaZulu-Natal on Wednesday, 21st August 2024, to promote the participation of women in the global aviation sector, as well as advancing women's rights in the sector. On the South African Regional Webinar on Economic Empowerment of Women, the Department of Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities is hosting a two-day webinar on the economic empowerment of women in the Southern African region, which started yesterday, 21st, and it will end today, 22nd August 2024. The webinar is exploring critical issues on the economic empowerment of women with a focus on trade and economic initiatives, frameworks and agreements at national and regional levels, and their impact on economic empowerment of women, youth, and persons with disabilities. On international affairs, the 44th Ordinary Summit of SADC, Cabinet welcomed the outcomes of the 44th Ordinary SADC Summit of Heads of State and Government held in Harare, Zimbabwe on the 17th of August 2024. The summit urged member states to implement the SADC regional humanitarian appeal to the El Nino-induced drought and floods, and to continue monitoring weather and climate risks, including the forecasted La Nina event, and develop contingency measures to mitigate the impact of the disasters. The summit also took note of the coming into effect of the agreement establishing the tripartite free trade area among the COMESA, the East Africa Community, and SADC, which will provide opportunities for SADC members to tap into an expanded market of 26 countries with a population of about 700 million and a gross domestic product of $1 trillion. That's a large market, and with the strengthening of our manufacturing sector, we are confident that South Africa's products will participate a great deal in the area. On the Israeli war against Palestine, the summit noted with concern the continuing relentless attack on civilians in Palestine, which has resulted in the loss of lives, destruction of property, and deteriorating humanitarian conditions, and called for an immediate ceasefire, the release of all hostages, and the commencement of talks to bring a lasting solution to the conflict. On the Southern African Railways Association SARA conference, I'll allow them to put their mic. They were late. You are welcome.
Thank you very much.
Southern African Rail Association Conference, Cabinet welcomed the deliberations during the 13th Southern African Railways Association Conference to uplift the rail sector within Southern African Development Community with an aim of facilitating greater trade within the region and taking advantage of trade opportunities presented by the African Continental Free Trade Area. A thriving SADC rail industry requires greater rail investment and collaboration within SADC region to address its many challenges. The region's rail industry has over the years been faced with challenges such as crime, theft, and vandalism. South Africa is committed to doing its part to create an efficient, connected and modern rail sector, and is implementing policy and interventions such as the Freight Logistics Roadmap to revive, support, and modernize the capacity and competence of our railways. On cabinet decisions, advisory body within the Department of Small Business Development, Cabinet approved the establishment of an advisory body within the DSBD as prescribed by the National Small Enterprise Act of 1996 as amended. The establishment of an advisory body is to ensure representation and promotion of the interests of small enterprises as contemplated in the National Strategy for the Development and Promotion of Small Enterprises in South Africa. The primary function of the advisory body will be to advise the Minister on broad areas that affect small enterprise growth, including national standards pertaining to small enterprise development and regulation. The advisory body will provide government with evidence-based expert advice on the functioning of various aspects of the small enterprise support ecosystem to enable more effective policy reforms, legislative amendments, and design of interventions to support macro, small and medium enterprises and cooperatives. On updates to Cabinet, outcomes of the 35th meeting of the parties to the Montreal Protocol on the substance that depletes the ozone layer. Cabinet received a briefing on the outcomes of the 35th meeting of the parties to the Montreal Protocol on the substance that depletes the ozone layer that was held in Nairobi, Kenya in October 2023. At that meeting, delegates committed firmly to address threats to both the ozone layer and the threats to global climate. South Africa is a party to the Montreal Protocol, and the participation of the country in the 35th MOP was aimed at ensuring that the rights of South Africans to safe environment as enshrined in the Constitution and the interests of the country are protected, given that some of the chemicals discussed are affecting the safety of the people and are also in use in this country, namely the refrigeration industry, in the refrigeration industry, agriculture, firefighting, air conditioning. While some contribute towards economic growth, they are also impacting negatively on the environment. Outcomes of the 5th Conference of Parties to the Minamata Convention, or COP5. Cabinet noted the outcomes of COP5 that was held in Geneva, Switzerland in November 2023. The Minamata Convention is critical to keep protecting human health and environment from harmful effects of mercury. Amongst the decisions taken at the summit are the following. 1, they defined new days to phase out mercury-added products, including in cosmetics. 2, strengthening ties with indigenous people. 3, an agreement of 15 milligrams over 1 kg total concentration of mercury as a threshold for wastes contaminated with mercury or mercury compounds. And other technical decisions covered adoption of guidance for controlling mercury releases to land and water and to control the emissions of mercury to the atmosphere. Outcomes of the 28th Conference of Parties, COP28, to the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change. The Cabinet received a briefing on the outcomes of the COP28, which took place in Dubai, in the United Arab Emirates in December 2023. The COP28 decisions are aimed at reducing the amount of greenhouse gas emissions in keeping with the 2 Celsius degrees goal of the Paris Agreement and help the developing country parties to adapt to the adverse impacts of climate change. Cabinet further noted the key deliverables of COP28 on key issues such as 1, the conclusion of the 2-year Glasgow Sharm el-Sheikh work program, 2, the adoption of the UAE Just Transition work program to discuss different just transition pathways, decisions which underscores the importance of finance, technology development, and transfer and capacity building support to achieve just and equitable transitions, and 3rd, the operationalization of the loss and damage fund. Parties noted with regret that the 100 billion US dollars was not met by 2021, and unless sufficient finance is provided, developing countries will not be able to implement the decisions of COP28. South Africa remains committed to meeting its undertakings under the UNFCCC and its Paris Agreement. However, the funding issues by the developed world are still important and will also impact the ability of this country to meet its own target. On bills, the Aeronautical and Marine Search and Rescue Bill of 2024, Cabinet approved the publication of the Aeronautical and Marine Search and Rescue Bill of 2024 for public comments. The bill seeks to amend the South African Maritime and Aeronautic Act of 2002, which has become outdated. The bill aims to ensure the safety of people in the event of aeronautical and maritime search and rescue incidents. The bill further seeks to align the national aeronautical and maritime search and rescue system with international standards and trends. The bill will strengthen the AMSA system to boost the growth of aviation and maritime-related industries and will contribute to economic growth. On appointments, all appointments are subject to verification of qualification and relevant security clearances. Founding members to the board of the Small Enterprise Development Agency, the Cabinet has approved the appointment of Ms. Nonzuzo Makanda as the chairperson, Ms. Doram Soli, Ms. Tolisa Duka, Mr. Pat Makape, Ms. Kama, Mr. Wasim Kari, the District Development Model Presidential Imbizo in Ekurhuleni. President Ramaphosa will undertake a District Development Model Presidential Imbizo in the Ekurhuleni Metropolitan Council on Friday, 23rd August 2024 at the Zakani Stadium to assess progress on service delivery commitments. The DDM Presidential Imbizo will be attended by leaders from all three spheres of government who will engage on service delivery challenges confronting the communities and development plans for the metropolitan municipality. And it makes an exhibition in Johannesburg from the 16th to the 17th of September 2024. The summit and the exhibition is a major trade event for the aviation industry. In addition, the event will expose South Africa as a tourist destination and present an opportunity to market other South African products to the summit and exhibition participants. Conference on Migration. The National Planning Commission, together with the International Organization on Migration and the UN Development Programme, are convening a conference on migration in Johannesburg from the 20th to the 23rd of August 2024. The conference is exploring and discussing migration as a driver of development with a particular focus on leveraging diaspora capital and international collaboration. Tourism Month. The 2024 Tourism Month program, which will run from the 1st to the 30th of September 2024, was launched in the Northern Cape in recognition of the need to spread the veil of tourism around the country. As the country invites domestic and international visitors to explore South Africa's majestic tourism destinations, vibrant living cultures and traditions, the government is hard at work to further expand the sector by unlocking the untapped tourism potential in our townships, villages, and small towns. By doing this, we'll further grow and diversify the tourism offering of South Africa. The state visit to the People's Republic of China. His Excellency President Cyril Ramaphosa will undertake a state visit to the People's Republic of China from the 2nd to the 5th of September 2024 that will further strengthen diplomatic and trade relations between the two countries. The visit follows President Xi Jinping's 4th state visit to South Africa in 2023. China is South Africa's largest trading partner, with bilateral trade standing at $34 billion in 2023, made up of exports totaling $12 billion contributor to South Africa's investment drive and is our largest source of foreign direct investment. A number of important agreements are expected to be concluded during the state visit, including a framework agreement on development cooperation, the trade balance, and market access expansion. A South African delegation will also participate in the Forum of China-Africa Cooperation, commonly known as FOCAC, which will take place from the 4th to the 6th of September 2024. FOCAC is a multilateral coordination mechanism between China and African countries, and it is viewed as a cooperation platform within the Chinese Belt and Road Initiative, which is China's global infrastructure development strategy. On messages, we'll start with us being a winning nation. Our nation's sportsmen and women continue to proudly raise our flag high in various sporting codes across the world and further unite and remain unbeaten in the rugby championship. Australia was also the scene of a magnificent victory for Diarcus, pardon my butchering his name, Duplessis, who retained his UFC middleweight title by defeating Nigeria's Israel Adesanya in Perth. I don't know why we put Nigeria. He's Israeli Adesanya in Perth. The Proteas kept their winning streak, defeating the West Indies in the second cricket test in Guyana and winning the test series 1-0. Team SA won one by gold, 3 by silver, and 2 bronze medals at the 2024 Paris Olympics, doubling their medal tally from the previous 2021 Tokyo Olympic Games. This achievement will live long in our collective memories. As a nation, we celebrate the South African relay team of Bayanda Walaza. You saw the teenager, Bradley Nkwana, who did it for his grandmother, Sean Maswanganyi, and Akani Simbine, who really anchored the team for winning a silver medal in the men. And Van Dijk won a silver medal during the women's javelin event. These victories demonstrated the power of sport to unite and transcend all boundaries. Cabinet encourages South Africans to use unifying moments as opportunity to reach out to fellow South Africans to build the society that we all want to live in. And we cannot forget our lady Tatiana Smith, who did us proud also with her gold, and she set the waters ablaze when she took her final lap at the Olympics. And also we have to congratulate Kuro Hazeldine for their support to Bayanda Walaza and sending his personal coach to support him there. For a teenager his age to be given that opportunity and the school to give that support, it's really a good step that all our schools should focus on. And we are also happy and encouraged that school sports is coming back strongly in the public schooling platforms. On congratulations, Cabinet extends its congratulations and well wishes to the newly crowned Miss South Africa 2024, Ms. Maya Leroux, and salutes her resilience. Maya Leroux represents a true South African spirit of personal triumph over adversity. As a first person with a disability, a hearing impairment, to be crowned Miss South Africa, Cabinet wishes her well in a new responsibility as a true ambassador of what is being a South African. We also send our well wishes to the outgoing Chief Justice Raymond Zondo, who is retiring at the end of August 2024 after a distinguished judicial career spanning 24 years. Ms. Fikile Marakalla, who secured second place in the photo category of the SADC Media Awards in 2024. She began a career at the Government Communication and Information System as an intern and is now employed as part of the Deputy President's photography team. She's one of our own, and she's not in the room. She'll take a bow if she's in the room. Mr. Benjamin Mushotama of Channel Africa Radio, who scooped second place in the radio category at the SADC Media Awards 2024. To the dance group Durban's Wu-Tang Crew for winning gold and silver in the Judo World Street Dance Championship. The group achieved gold in the under-14 intermediate category and crowned intermediate world champions. To Councillor Dada Morero, the newly elected mayor of Johannesburg, and we wish him well as he undertakes the task of leading South Africa's largest metro. On condolences, it has been a week of great loss, in particular in the academic sector in South Africa. And Cabinet expressed its condolences to the family of and friends of Professor Mushen Kondo, who was an eminent scholar in social policy and heritage. He made significant contributions to the development of public policies in areas from tourism of the heritage, what do they call it? It's a heritage park in where the funeral service is going to be held tomorrow. But he's also a former vice chancellor and principal of the University of Venda, and contributed greatly to make sure that that region of Limpopo in particular performs academically, has its own university and development. He worked both from University of Limpopo, Univen, UNISA, anywhere you mention, Professor Nkondo has worked there. And also, we woke up to the news of the loss of Mr. William Smith, the mathematics and science education innovator and recipient of the prestigious National Order of the Baobab. Mr. William Smith helped many learners by simplifying maths, science, biology, and English lessons on SABC Learning Channel program, including myself. I benefited from his extra classes when extra lessons were not there. This is the man who introduced virtual teaching before the digital age. We all watched him on SABC TV. We also send our condolences to the family and friends of Ms. Zanele Mbokazi Nkambule, who was a presenter on Ukhozi FM and the founder of the Crown Gospel Awards. May their souls rest in peace. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister, for the comprehensive statement that covers both local and international spheres. Colleagues, I will then open the session for questions. The drill is the same. You identify yourself and the media house that you represent, and then you go straight to questions. Thereafter, we'll also check the online questions, those who have posted questions on our online platforms. Thank you very much. May I check in the room first if we have any hand? I don't see any. Oh, there is a hand there in the room as we go through 148 days without load shedding.
Junior Kumalo from Newsroom Africa. The first question, Minister, is on the imbizos that are taking place, the one that's going to be taking place tomorrow. There's been some concerns raised by opposition parties such as the Democratic Alliance on the costs of these imbizos. You yourself indicated that some of the challenges in that area include water shedding and load reduction. So the problems are known to government. So why is there a need to go back to those same communities and ask what the challenges they are facing are? Why not just try and come up with solutions? The second one, no, I'll come back. I'll focus on the second question.
Thank you very much, Julia. Let me check if there is any other hand. Perhaps, Minister, with your kind allowance, we can take one question online.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. TK?
Thank you, Mr. B, and good day, colleagues. The first question from online is coming from Spelele from Business Report, and the question is, what update did Cabinet receive about the postponement of the signing ceremony for the Presidential Health Compact as it was scheduled for Thursday last week? May I continue?
Yeah, you may continue.
And the second question, still from Spelele, is since big business is refusing to sign the health compact due to its explicit pledge supporting the NHI, and that this clause was amended unilaterally by the government, what does this say about the partnership between the government and the private sector, which President Cyril Ramaphosa hailed in his weekly newsletter this week? And we have a question from Kolekani Maguwane from Business Times. And the question is, please advise if an update was received by Cabinet on the merger of Petro SA, SWF, and Central Energy Fund, and if Cabinet has a view on Petro SA CEO Kweli Sizan, who was appointed in February on a probationary basis, but as yet to be confirmed as permanent CEO.
No, thank you very much. I think my colleague has also
Just a quick one,
rejuvenated the questions.
When it comes to the national dialogue, was there any discussion amongst the executive on when that will be held? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I see the activity on the online. We will give them a second round of questions. Minister.
Thank you. Let me start with the first question from Junior on the Imbizos and the DA. The DA is part of government, and we will see the ministers and the Imbizos themselves and deputy ministers answering the questions there. So the Imbizos are not about what we know. It's also the ability of government to receive feedback from the communities, direct feedback. Remember the mechanism of getting feedback, you rely on media to relay what you say people are saying. But that direct engagement gives a different approach and understanding both from communities and the people. And let me take the examples that we have referred to in the Zakani area and Etwata. The water problems, they're not water shading. The issue is that they're connected. The water supply to Ekurhuleni comes through, they use it from rainwater. They use the line from Tshwane. And because Tshwane is low-lying and Ekurhuleni is higher, so when Tshwane has high consumption, Ekurhuleni will then not have water. They've put in 39 reservoirs. I may be not getting the number right, but we know, I think it's 39 reservoirs. But they cannot be filled up because of the consumption in Tshwane. So rainwater must then put a line into the direct line for Ekurhuleni to have its own water. And we know we have a challenge of water in Gauteng. But if you go back, you see that program has been rescheduled a number of times. The Minister of Water will be there, the President will be there. Rainwater will have to make a commitment, both in front of the people, the President, and their Minister, to say when is that line going to be built. And that commitment is important to build a relationship of trust between the people, their government, because they'll know that the President will be watching. And you know that we have introduced fortnightly briefings. I think next week is the Minister of Water will be briefing in terms of progress they're doing to deliver water in areas that have those challenges. We do that, but also the direct engagement, like when you engage with me in this briefing, because we could simply issue a statement and you read the statement and we print whatever it is, but we do the direct engagement so that you can have the other explanation. But it's the relationship between government and its people, and that relationship is cardinal, because a government that is not in touch with its people is not with being a government at all. And on the issue, and I want to deal with the issue of the load reduction. The load reduction problem in that area is because people have done illegal connections in the area, and no matter what government can do, what ESCOM can do, without the people committing to remove illegal connections and make sure nobody connects illegally and start paying their electricity, ESCOM will be left with no choice but to do load reduction to manage the consumption, the illegal consumption that is taking place on the grid. So that is also another level of compacting to say load reduction is happening because of this, can you commit? And as communities, as we go back, the President goes back to these places and will say, previously when we were here, you committed to do the following so that load reduction can stop. But to date, you have not done your part, and therefore ESCOM cannot meet you halfway in those. So that's part of building a relationship between government and its people, and you can never put a cost to that. That is an important part of our democracy and engagement. And there was a question let me deal with the next question that you raised on the national dialogue. Remember, the President has reiterated that government is committed to hosting the national dialogue. work is underway to engage with the leading foundations to prepare for that national dialogue. And when those preparatory works have been done, we will then announce the dates. But Cabinet did not consider the matter. I just felt that I must just update on the issue that there is consultations underway in terms of planning the agenda and all those and the mechanisms of running the dialogue. You can go back to the previous dialogue that was done in the country. You'll see the extent of the planning that is detailed. But we appreciate the efforts that the foundations led by the Thabo Mbeki Foundation have done to prepare for the national dialogue. And then there was a question around the measure of SAFE, SFF and Petro SA. In this cabinet committee, we didn't receive the briefing, but we have previously received, we continue to receive updates on the process to match those and the various proposals and the permutations the Minister and the Department of Minerals and Petroleum are considering for the measure. And there is nothing abnormal with a CEO that gets appointed on a probationary basis. Remember, the CEO will have to undergo security clearance. The CEO will have to also have performance targets. All CEOs, when they are appointed, if you go and check with their boards, they would have been probationary clauses that are put as a standard requirement, and they have to fulfill certain conditions to be confirmed in those positions. And on the other questions from Spelele on whether we received an update on the postponement of the signing ceremony. The Presidential Health Compact is being signed today, and there was no need for an update really. It's going to be signed today. The acting president, Deputy President Paul Mashatile, will oversee the signing. I think in an hour's time from now, the ceremony will start. And the issue around the NHI, I've explained previously that everyone in South Africa, whether it's private sector, whether it's government, whether it's civil society, agrees on the need for access, universal access to health in this country. And that universal access to health is underpinned by quality health infrastructure and enough or sufficient and well-trained health professionals, and also everybody, irrespective of their status and standing, having access to the medical care that they require. And we've also clarified that the differences around the NHI are what we deem tactical differences, and the Minister of Health is undergoing a roadshow engaging with stakeholders to explain the implementation mechanism of the NHI, so that whatever worries and discomforts that may be there can be clarified. But the NHI is law in this country, and the business sector knows that is law, and we continue to engage with them. And the partnership with business in the country, it's a partnership that is not based on one issue. It's a partnership that is based on all parties, including labor and civil society, promoting what is the best interest of this country. So the NHI, the small differences of society excluded. That is not included, that be stable, and that is not good for business. I'll take the next round of questions.
Thank you very much, Minister. I'm not sure, before I go online, if there is any follow-up question from the room. Going. Tagalani, take us through the next questions.
Thank you, Mr. B. The following questions are from Terence Kremer from Engineering News. And the first one is, when is the Electricity Regulation Amendment Act expected to come into force now that it has been signed by the President? And does the Cabinet expect a legal challenge to the electricity regulation in light of constitutionality concerns raised ahead of the signing? And what is the composition of the delegation that will accompany the President to China? And what specific trade and investment issues does South Africa expect to raise with the Chinese government? And we have a question from Welin Prince from Network 24. And the question is, did the President attend yesterday's cabinet meeting? And what is the latest in terms of his health, seeing that the President delegated some of his public engagements to the Deputy President or ministers over the last few days? And we have a question from Paul Bloomberg. Does South Africa still support the China peace proposal on Ukraine, Russia, or does it feel that it is now out of date? And we have Sophie Mukweno from the SADC, and the question is in line with Paul's question. In the essence, the question is, has South Africa spoken to Ukraine and Russia in recent months? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. There are some of the questions. I think I see some activity again. We might have the last round. Thank you.
I thought I was being clever and said Takarani must forward me the questions, and I realized how he was reading them and how I'm following them. I'm going to be in trouble, but in case I miss some of them, you'll just remind me. On the Electricity Regulation Amendment Act, it has become law. As soon as the President signs it, it has become law. Whether we expect a legal challenge, if the legal challenge comes, the government will be ready to go to court to defend the law. And the composition of the delegation, of course, the delegation will include ministers, it will include business because of the trade issues and the business issues. And because of FOCAC, I'm sure it will also include premiers from some of the provinces who have the relationships or who are trying to get investments from China, as we've indicated that China is the largest source of our foreign direct investment in the country, and they don't invest in one province, they do invest across the provinces. And in terms of what are the specific trade and investment issues, what we'll do, we'll organize Minister Pakstow to just come in and brief in detail on the trade forecast that we are pursuing, so that I don't start on one issue and another. But agriculture, of course, will be part of those. The manufacturing will be part of those. The issues around South Africa not wanting to export raw minerals and to beneficiate in the country, and it will be one of those areas. But Minister Pakstow of the Trade, Industry and Competition will get him to brief. I'm sure next week we can find a spot for him to brief. The update on the President's eye infection: he is recovering from the eye infection. His doctors have attended to him, and I do not know where South Africa expressed. South Africa's position on the Russia-Ukraine conflict is based on its foreign policy objectives that all wars must come to an end. And instead of coming to an end later, they must come to an end quicker, because the impact in particular of the Russia-Ukraine war on South Africa and the region of SADC and the African continent has been major in terms of both oil and grain. And with the El Nino situation of drought, that impact has, that conflict has led to high prices and the high cost of living within the African continent. It is for that reason that South Africa and some African leaders took an initiative to go and engage both President Zelensky and President Putin with mechanisms to bring them into a dialogue. You will remember the African Leaders Initiative did a 10-point plan, confidence building measures, so that the two countries or the two governments could end up in in a dialogue at some point. And that is the position we remain on. And we had committed that we will assist with the other issues that had to be met in the 10-point plan, and that work continues to be done both through our diplomatic channels and also through our back channels. And then there was an issue around whether the president attended cabinet. No, the president did not attend cabinet. President Mashatile has been acting, Deputy President Mashatile has been acting president as the president receives treatment and recovers from his eye infection. And on the weekend, I got a frantic calls Wise Minister Msaka acting president. She was acting president because Deputy President was out of the country at that point. In terms of our constitution, the Deputy President acts for the President when the President is not able to fulfill his duties. In the absence of both the President and the Deputy President, a minister can be appointed, so that we clarify ourselves and each other and there are no confusion. So when you see a minister appointed acting, it means the Deputy President is also not available to take up his acting responsibilities. Did I leave any questions that were asked? Takarani, did I leave any questions that you...
Thank you very much, Minister. We are just taking the last round, the sweeping round. Any questions online, Tagalani?
Thank you, Mr. Bill. What should be the last question from online is from Alpha from Heart FM. And the question is, there have been changes in political leadership at several municipalities across the country over the past few days. And you have mentioned the new mayor of Joburg, and isn't the cabinet worried about these continuous changes and how these changes will cause instability at the local level? And secondly, ESCOM submitted a draft revenue application to NERSA asking for 36.15% electricity price hike for the 2025-26 financial year. And many municipalities have rejected this application. And the question is, will the cabinet support municipalities? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tagalani. Minister, these were the last questions that we had virtually. After the response, we will request the Minister to sign off and adjourn the press briefing.
And I'm trying to call a friend on the NERSA tariff issues, and I'm hoping the DG is helping me check the information I've asked on the NERSA tariff. On the continuous changes of leadership in municipalities, if you recall, in the 6th administration, the Department of Culture, led by then Minister Thembi Smelani, drafted a bill which is in consultation with, which is out for public consultation, that was looking at a framework for coalitions and collective governing in municipalities, where the largest party will then form government with the participation of others. And that initiative was also championed by Deputy President in the 6th administration, including convening engagement sessions on that framework, because we believe that there should be stability in municipality. Because in this current environment, it's not ideal to have exorbitant tariffs. So it's not just cabinet supporting municipalities. It's going back to what I announced earlier, to say there are ministers who are working on the cost of living adjustment. We've started on fuel, but we are going, part of the extension of that work is going to cover electricity and other areas of impact. We just wanted to start on fuel because if you have a larger scope, you will not be able to complete that work quick enough. But if we focus on a particular area, bring it to bed, then we can have South Africans can have relief on that part on that aspect, whilst we work on the other mechanisms. So we'll have to as the Cabinet Committee deals with the cost of living implications for South Africans, we'll have to engage with not only the NERSA tariffs, but the cost of electricity in the country. You'll recall that at some point, electricity was one of the cheapest services in this country, and how we claw us back into that. And we know that the challenges were exacerbated by the problems we were confronted with at ESCOM. But where we're sitting, the impact of the electricity prices on citizens is not something that Cabinet is not aware of, and Cabinet has a committee that is working on a collective cost of living package, but because of the scope, we are going to focus on that on one matter and bring it to bed and move to the next one. I'm sure that and confident that when we are done with the focus on fuel, we'll then also move to the focus on electricity. Not saying in other areas it will not be possible. I'm aware that the Minister of Human Settlements is going to be briefing on the packages they're doing to make housing affordable to the missing middle category of people. She was supposed to brief this afternoon. It has been postponed. I'm sure we're going to reschedule it. Okay, I'm told she's going to brief on Monday, because we continue to find measures in our individual departments, but also in areas where it requires collective efforts of departments or a cluster to make sure that we alleviate the impact of the high cost of living to South Africans. And as we conclude this press briefing, I want to wish you all well, and the remainder of the weekend wish you well. And for those in Ekurhuleni and those in Gauteng wishing to join the presidential DDM Imbizo in Ekurhuleni, you are invited to come and join us. But also in this important month of women, as we go towards the wrapping up, we want to urge all South Africans to say the fight against gender-based violence and femicide, it's all our fight. We must continue to protect our women and children. And it's not a month-based program, it's a year-long program, because it's a daily struggle for our women and children. And on behalf of the security cluster and the chairperson of the cluster, Minister Sansom Kunu, the security cluster is committing and reassuring South Africans that is putting its finger on the tip of the crime situation in the country, and as we work to build safer communities. Thank you. Have the rest of the day.
The briefing is urgent. Thank you very much. Also, lastly,